The Pennsylvania Senate has passed Senate Bill 45. Only one senator voted no. So, yeah, let's get into it. Senate Bill 45 is dangerous. The major danger is moving prostitution-related offenses into the trafficking chapter will blur the difference between sex trafficking, which is a form of rape, and sex work, which is a career, a job. Like any other job, you need to consent, right? So you're consenting to work in the full-service sex industry. Okay, so one of the biggest concerns is conflation. This is why a few years back I started asking for an end conflation bill, because if we get an end conflation bill, there will be a definitive difference between trafficking, sex trafficking, which is a form of rape, and prostitution, which is a job. It's a career, right? So we needed that end conflation bill, but now it's a little bit too late. Well, maybe. This still has not gone to the House. We'll get into that in a little bit. Okay. So anyways, this bill will keep prostitution itself where it is, still criminalized as misdemeanor. And it will legally put buyers, promoters, landlords, transportation, security, any sort of like related offenses or people, that all moves to the human trafficking chapter of the Pennsylvania Crimes Codes. Now, prostitution does not fit the definition of a crime. It is a morally enacted crap. So anyways, the next biggest concern is the sneaky ways they will utilize this to continue to target and criminalize, increase surveillance, harm, exploit, abuse, traffic, both full-service sex workers and sex trafficking survivors. Please keep in mind that not all sex trafficking survivors are full-service sex workers, and not all full-service sex workers are sex trafficking survivors, right? Just like all rape survivors are not nurses, and not all nurses are rape survivors, okay? Like, our profession is not one and the same as a form of abuse. Oftentimes, the person who decides who is a prostitute and who is a sex trafficking survivor, again, sex trafficking, a form of rape, is law enforcement, and that is largely decided based on whether you will work with them and admit that you're a sex trafficking survivor and then help them find somebody that you're allegedly being trafficked by, when chances are you're just a prostitute who is just trying to get through life, right? Work, do that thing that we all gotta do, that whole work thing. Then it goes into like promoting prostitution. That includes running a prostitution business. Now, during the pandemic, it became very clear in Pennsylvania that independent contractors were running a business, right? We were running an independent business. Same thing for prostitution. So this will keep prostitution under that crimes code, but then also charge us under a trafficking crimes code for like running a business, promoting our business whenever it's only ourselves. But, you know, independent contractors are businesses, which they should have protections, but this is just being manipulated. Inducing someone to remain in prostitution. Okay, I'm gonna pause there. Can we go after the government for this? I mean, they're the ones that are forcing us to remain in prostitution. But anyways, that is another thing. Okay, this also includes living off prostitution proceeds. Now, I did retire December of last year. Raised 4 kids in my lifetime. And let me tell you, I worked and I went and did things like bought food for my kids. That could be considered living off the proceeds of prostitution. And children could be charged. Very similarly, if I were to go buy like one of my grandbabies an ice cream cone with proceeds from prostitution, they could essentially be charged with trafficking me. So we need to like very clearly end this religious rhetoric, which the senator that pushed this even said something about the organization that he went and got trained by. I don't think it says in this about that, but it will be mentioned. So anyways, let's just get back to this. Living off of prostitution proceeds makes a prostitute illegal as a person. You can't do anything with the money to support your children, to support your family. So that one just is so dangerous. And we all know the communities that they will be used against. Poor and vulnerable communities, black and brown communities. They're not going after rich people with this. Soliciting patrons, transporting someone for prostitution, again, can't hire security. Allowing a place to be used for prostitution. Okay, now again, a lot of full-service sex workers are independent contractors, and you know, things like laws that are targeting us and the pandemic and stuff, that has taken a great deal away from our community, with safety and other things as well, right? As well as money, right? It is very dangerous. When I retired in December, it was not an easy decision. It was not something I wanted to do. It was a necessity because that January I had been assaulted and I had my rib broken, and that's dangerous, right? And I can't report, but I did get my payback. Legally, very legally. I called his wife and told her what he did to me. Cheers to that, fucker. Anyways, let's get back into it. So, okay. We covered the living off of that, the place. So, not only that, many independent workers will also work with other workers for safety reasons, right? Because of stupid laws like this that take away our security. So this is actually going to increase trafficking. This is how you harm and kill women and disabled women in Pennsylvania. And then the one section 3028 would essentially turn clients of prostitution into a felony. I mean, there's like a tiered system. It's all about money, like, right? The first tier, I think it said $2,500. Do I have it in here? Yeah. The first tier, fines start at least $2,500, then $5,000 for the second, then at least $10,000 for the third or later offense. Half goes, we'll get into that later. Okay, don't let me jump ahead. Okay, so turning clients into criminals over purchasing sensual services, like, get out of here. SB 45 does not simply reclassify prostitution as trafficking. More precisely, it moves most prostitution-related conduct into 18 PACS Chapter 30, Human Trafficking, while leaving the individual adult act of prostitution itself under those crimes codes in Chapter 59. Right? So it also adds definitions, problematic definitions. Prostituted person. Now, let's just break this down. I was not a prostituted person any more than a surgeon was a surgeoned person, okay? I was a career prostitute. I chose that. Calling me a prostituted person takes away my agency. It takes away my personhood itself, okay? I'm right here. There are plenty of full-service sex workers who have spoken out publicly. So the fact that they are utilizing definitions about us to talk about us like we don't exist, we don't have experiences, and it adds definitions for sexual activity. I didn't look into all of that because really this is harmful on so many levels, so I don't have time to get into all the harms. But basically this is very religiously backed bullcrap. Okay, 32, patronizing prostitution. Okay, the fines for prostitution, and it does. Penalties increase from an M3 for the first offense, M1 for second, F3 for third or later offenses. Now, an M3 is the lowest class misdemeanor. That's what prostitution is. It's patronizing prostitution. Okay, that's a non-violent victimless crime. We're not talking about the rape of a sex trafficking survivor. And yes, I say sex trafficking survivor even if they still are in their abuse, because even whenever I was a victim, I was surviving that shit. So, yes, this is just horrible. This is going after clients of consenting adults instead of helping people who are being raped. Alright, it says that half of these fines for folks go to the Safe Harbor Fund. Now, the Safe Harbor passed like forever ago. Now, Safe Harbor protections, we've been trying to get expanded for adults in Pennsylvania for like 4 years now. Nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody just, let's just not listen to the crazy sex trafficking survivor hooker. But anyways, so Safe Harbor, we do have Safe Harbor protections for kids in Pennsylvania. And there is this Safe Harbor fund that was created and supposedly money's going into it. But there's no sex trafficking survivor resources for children in Pennsylvania, none. Zero. Still now, right now. And if there is a lawmaker that could tell me different, I have a 14-year-old right now who needs resources right this second. And she's needed them since she was 12. So the Safe Harbor Fund, probably just a slush fund for some organization to create some sort of thing where they need to hire all sorts of employees for case management and I don't know, whatever crap. Okay. And half to a new prevention of human trafficking restricted account. So it's restricted. Who is going to be doing this prevention? Because here's the prevention they're doing now. They're going into your high schools and teaching your girls how not to be hookers and teaching your boys how not to purchase the services of hookers. They're not teaching anything on how not to rape, how not to be sex trafficked, how not to, most trafficking, much like child rape happens by somebody the person knows. So going into high schools, and by the way, high school, by that time, it might be very well too late to teach prevention, so I'm not sure what they're doing here. But this is what they do. They go into high schools and teach the girls how not to be hookers and the boys how not to purchase hookers because they should be shamed of their penis and their desires. And anyways. Okay. Now, Section 3 keeps adult prostitution, but it does change the wording to an adult who exchanges sexual activity for money/value or loiters to be hired, and makes it a misdemeanor of the 3rd degree. So, it's already a misdemeanor of the 3rd degree, but it adds loiters to be hired. What does that even mean? Does that mean if I go and fill my vehicle up at the truck stop and go inside and get a beverage, and then I sit on the tailgate and drink the beverage to like relax a little bit, because I drive a lot. Like, I run an outreach program, so there's times where I'm in 4 or 5 counties in one day. So sometimes I just take some downtime, and for those of you following me know, not exactly a fan of going to parks right now because of what's happening with Westmoreland County Parks and targeting women who are alone in parks by the park police. But anyways, so let's get into this from the beginning. Okay, exchange sexual activity for money or value. Now, that's been in there. But who defines value? What is value? I mean, is value going to a fancy seafood restaurant and ordering a lobster dinner with lobster bisque and expensive wine, and racking up a $300 bill between 2 of us? Is that value? I mean, because food is a survival resource, something we have to pay for, something we have to work to pay for. So now, is dating considered sex trafficking? I mean, oh no, prostitution, sorry. It's just dating considered to be prostitution. And then loiters to be hired. Who decides that? Who defines that? Like, how can you look at somebody and say, you're loitering to be hired? Furthermore, watch out, because these sort of wording will also be used at places to justify ICE. So even though I think Pittsburgh has backtracked on working with ICE or tried to deny responsibility or accountability, I don't know. It is so hard to keep up with everything. There's so much of it. But loiters to be hired is now going to be a misdemeanor of the 3rd degree if this passes. We're not there yet, so keep up and we'll get to there eventually. Probably not in this video, but I will get there. Alright, then there's some Megan's Law registration, felony, sex offense definitions. This is for prostitution being changed to trafficking. Oh, wait. Oh, wait. It says, wait. What? There's this little thing on here that says professional licensing. Who are they licensing? If they're saying that everybody is sex trafficking people, including independent prostitutes ourselves, who's getting licensed here? I'm very, very confused about this professional licensing part. Okay, so, I mean, can we say Nordic model while still criminalizing prostitutes? and additionally criminalizing prostitutes and adding them to trafficking lists and Megan's Law's registries for big prostitutes. This is insanity. It also moves or adds prostitution-related definitions under trafficking, like promoting prostitution. So if you advertise at all for prostitution, advertising, promoting prostitution, that is very, very vast. So that's now going to be trafficking. So you can be a prostitute, but you can't advertise. You can't promote. You can't tell anybody. So people are just going to have to look at you and guess. Let's not even get into what does a prostitute look like. Okay, most of the related offenses that they're just moving from prostitution to a worse criminal charge of trafficking, sex trafficking. A prostitution doesn't have a victim. It is a victimless, non-violent crime that doesn't even fit the definition of what a crime should be. Trafficking is a form of rape. So if we're not seeing how this is promoting the rape economy to rape women and girls into compliance, like this is a comply or die, and they will rape, beat, murder into compliance. They already do. It didn't really get into all of this because I believe this deals more with... This is just weird, okay? But they are changing child abuse, sexual exploitation references from prostitution under 5902, which is the regular prostitution code, to promoting prostitution in 3027, which is under trafficking. So the thing that screams at me about this is there's no such thing as a child prostitute. So they don't even know what the hell they're talking about to begin with. This is so problematic. Okay. It also updates sex offender tier language, updates felony sex offense / DNA references. So they're going to create a sperm comparison list with clients' DNAs. What in the name of insanity is happening here? I mean, that gives like an entire new meaning to sperm bank. The state of Pennsylvania is trying to create a sperm database. Are men that obsessed with their own penises and their own cum that they need a database to wank it to? I can't. Updates professional licensing conviction review language to include Chapter 30 and offenses involving sexual servitude. Mainly under 3027, promoting prostitution. So currently versus the proposed law. Currently it would keep adult... I hate the fucking term adult prostitution. Prostitution is an adult career. There's no such thing as a child prostitute, okay? So it will keep prostitution under Chapter 59 of the Pennsylvania Crimes Codes. It will move promoting prostitution from prostitution to human trafficking crimes codes. It also moves clients from purchasing services of a prostitute into the trafficking. So this is conflation all over the place, and now it's money. It's money. $2,500, $5,000, $10,000. That is big money. If they go after and get 100 people a couple times a year, you do the math. It is huge money, and that doesn't include the court costs, the lawyer costs, the money the judges make from sitting there and hearing all of these stupid cases from adults consenting to have sex. This is a waste of Pennsylvania resources. This is a mismanagement of anti-trafficking funding and resources, because it is taking away from people who are actually in sex trafficking situations being raped to go after prostitutes for some moral crusade. First of all, they use things like the buyer penalties, right? Buyer penalties. This is like wording that lawmakers are using. So they're talking about ending sex trafficking, which is a form of rape. So buyer penalties. They're talking about buyers of rape, or are they talking about rapists? Because clients of prostitutes aren't rapists. There's consent. Very much consent. More consent probably in the full-service sex community than in general society, because we navigate consent every second of our interactions. Like, very simply, it is a matter of life and death, like now even more so. So, this is ridiculous. They raise fines. There's less trafficking specific funding structure that I can find. Fines fund safe harbor and a new human trafficking restricted prevention. You know what that says? They're just messing around with money. A bunch of people are going to get paid to put a bunch of BS out there that's not going to help anybody. That's going to keep vulnerable communities of women and girls, including trans women, non-binary folks, deeply rooted in our rape culture, with no hand up, hand out, nothing. It's a joke. The Safe Harbor Fund has no resources accessible to child sex trafficking survivors. And Jules, with Senator Dush's office, I think I'm pronouncing that correct, she admitted she knew that there were no resources for sex trafficking survivors in Pennsylvania. So why does, like, most of the funding on this appear to go towards, like, police and anti-trafficking organizations for more prevention? Like, they did the awareness and now they're doing prevention. No, none of it is making people aware of what actual trafficking is, and none of it is actual prevention. If you want to know what actual sex trafficking is and what kids need, you'll come away with way more questions than answers, because I have way more questions than answers. But I wrote about my abuse ages 9 and 10, and I'm giving my book away for free, because the point is to end the abuse. Again, with the problematic language. Prostituted person, inmate of house of prostitution. Okay, I'm going to have to stop this. I got to take this call. To summarize, for sex trafficking survivors, the main danger is that moving prostitution hate that word, prostituted. Prostitution-related offenses into the trafficking chapter of the Crimes Code will blur the lines between prostitution, which is a job, and sex trafficking, which is a form of rape. This will leave those who are being sex trafficked, again, it's a form of rape, these are rape survivors, without access to adequate resources to leave their abuse, to heal, to seek any sort of support, because all of the resources are being utilized to target prostitutes in this moralistic crusade. Summary problems for consensual adult sex workers. And I hate that I have to put the word consensual in there. I guess these are going to lawmakers. You know, we don't say consensual surgeon. We don't say consensual waitress, who are being underpaid, by the way, so tip, tip, tip. Anyways, so let me knock it off here. Okay. The biggest concern is also conflation. Even though it keeps prostitution under the prostitution crimes codes, it legally puts buyers, landlords, promoters, websites can be considered a promoter. You can be considered a promoter for doing your own website. Landlords, transportation, securities, the families of workers, including children, at risk of being charged under human trafficking for prostitution related things. Like, they're essentially making prostitutes toxic to be around. Like, a prostitute can't buy you a coffee, or you could get in trouble for trafficking them. You can't accept rent money from a known prostitute, or you could get in trouble for trafficking them. Yeah, you can't be hired as security, or you could be in trouble for trafficking them, like our protection, right? This will, as I have likely in here, but it will expand surveillance, raids, policing, stigma around prostitution that will have a ripple effect in years to come across the entire sex work industry, in every area of commercial sex work. For law enforcement, this is where it's positive if you're in law enforcement. This gives police, prosecutors stronger tools against buyers, third parties, and organized networks. Note, they already have tools, and they're not doing anything except targeting prostitutes with the occasional tokenized child thrown in there, like, hey, look what we did over here. I mean, remember back here, Jules, from the person who drafted Senate Bill 45, the main person on Senate Bill 45, Jules works for that senator's office, and Jules said that they know there are no resources for sex trafficking survivors in Pennsylvania. So this bill just gives police and prosecutors more resources to go after people for, what, more fines, to police and target and criminalize adults for consenting to have sex. It's also going to encourage anti-trafficking operations that mostly produce prostitution-related arrests instead of identifying force, fraud, coercion, minors, or actual forms of trafficking, abuse, and control. It's going to redirect any bit of resources. So they're talking about prevention, This is opposite of prevention. For actual Pennsylvania trafficking data, like, first of all, I have no idea where their trafficking data has come from, but pretty sure it's probably the National Human Trafficking Hotline, and it's probably skewed. But if they're actually pulling data from where they should be, which are arrests, prosecutions, court data, police data across all of Pennsylvania, which is damn near impossible. They're supposed to report this, but they really don't. FBI data, like in Allegheny County, there was 108 independent police departments operating. So nobody is going and getting any of this information. Like, none of this data is actually compiled. Most of the time they use skewed data, but what it's going to do is this is going to make very nice, neat statistics for them saying, we're ending trafficking, because what they're going to do is they're going to arrest clients of prostitutes, and they're going to charge them with trafficking-related offenses that they're making up in this bill. And they're going to say, yay, we're ending trafficking. And in the meantime, those 9-year-old, 10-year-old kids, reminder, I was abused with a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, an 11-year-old, when I was a kid. Then as a teenager, I was abused also with multiple teenagers, like lots of trafficking. This is going to remove resources from those children that need it. So this is all said in the name of protecting the children, right? But it's all going to harm the children. It's taking resources away from the children. Okay, so the bottom line of any of these laws, like, the outcomes ultimately depend on prosecution discretion, and judicial interpretation. And we all know how that works. In Westmoreland County, you can't even get the district attorney to go after people who are actually sex trafficking children. This is nothing new. This is not new information to me. I have been speaking very, very publicly since, now I don't work with children normally, but somebody near and dear to my heart asked, and, you know, since August of 2024, I have been looking for resources for a child. There's none. So, I mean, they didn't go after the people who trafficked her. When the police were forced by mom and me to go get her, she was 12, they did nothing but badmouth mom on the way to taking her home. And oh yeah, there was another child in the house with these traffickers. I'm not sure what happened to that child, but she was definitely under 18, and there was no consent age differences between any of the people. So this child, I'm not sure if she was removed from the house or not, but she was also being abused by these people, and they're still out there roaming around. One thing to keep in mind, that the reality of it is you have zero rights under the law unless you can afford a lawyer. That shouldn't be. This includes child sex trafficking survivors in Pennsylvania, who still, as of right this second, have zero resources. None. So for folks who are familiar with sex worker rights in the sex worker rights movement, this is the Nordic model that still continues to target and criminalize prostitutes as well. So it's like the Nordic model I don't know. I'll come up with something good. I would like to say thank you to Senator Fontana, who was the only no vote in the Senate. We have sex trafficking survivors and full-service sex workers have talked to Senator Fontana and Senator Fontana's staff in the past about sex trafficking and prostitution. So we appreciate that no vote, and more information is going to be coming, including a call to action, so keep updated. If you listened the whole way through, thank you so much. Awareness will create change. Please hit all the buttons. You know what to do. Follow, like, subscribe. Tune in next time.